Today I'm absolutely thrilled to kick off a brand new series diving deep into one of the cornerstones of aviation. It's the GNS 430 navigation system. In this first episode we're starting with an exclusive takeoff tour, just like as the manual of the GNS 430 describes, and we'll do an in-depth overview of the system, right? Simply look at the basics first, and then also highlighting a lot of essential functionalities which makes the GNS 430 a powerful tool in Flight Simulator 2020 as well as in 2024. We're only gonna look at the takeoff tour, right? In the upcoming episodes we're gonna dive into a little bit more things like flight planning using the GNS 430, etc. So let's roll the intro and then let's kick off. So we're inside an aircraft which has a GNS 430 navigation system. The GNS 430 is, I would say, kind of a common navigation system, right, which you can use and can find in multiple aircrafts in Flight Simulator 2020 as well as in Flight Simulator 2024. In this first video, we're gonna look at the basics, right? We're gonna look at, okay, what happens after you start up the navigation system, but also walk through some menus to give you an overview of what's possible and what's not possible. In the future videos, we're gonna dive a little bit more into, for example, how to use it to plan your flights, but also how to use the more advanced functionalities of this navigation system. But before that, let me first set the basics. So, by default, if you hover over buttons, it will show this tip. If you don't have these options, let me show you how to get them. So you'll go to the settings menu, and inside the settings menu, make sure that you're in a general section, which is the default one. Then go to the flight interface. Inside the flight interface, there are the instrument name tooltips, as well as the instrument description tooltips. These are the tips which you need to enable or set to instant if you want to see the tips like I have. If you don't want to have them, you can easily click them and set them to off, or you can set them to delayed, which means if you're hovering over something, it will not appear directly, but it will show you a little bit later. For this video, I will leave them to instant, so you can easily follow me. So we're inside the aircraft again, right? So to get rid of this option, we need to press the OK button, but first look what it tells us. Well, for example, this one tells us the base map, land database, the terrain database, the airport terrain database, and the aviation database, and the source from it. Normally, you would see a little bit more advanced data. For example, you will see the version of it, but also the expiration date. For example, if you look at the manual of the GNS 430, then you will have an obstacle expires and also an aviation expires window over here, but in this case not. So how to get rid of this? Well, you can simply press this one, the enter button, which will bring you to the instrument panel self-test. And the instrument panel self-test contains a lot of things. So it contains this information, right? The LCDI, the LFLG, the VCDI and the VFLG, and then you can change these options. So let's first look at what these options are meaning. So let's start with the LCDI, which currently has the value half left. LCDI stands for Lateral Course Deviation Indicator, and it shows the aircraft's lateral position relative to the desired course. If it says half left, it refers to the position of the course deviation needle, which means that the needle is deflected halfway to the left side of the scale. This indicates that the aircraft is slightly off course to the right and needs to adjust its heading to the left to align with the desired course. Right, that's the simple explanation of this. Then we've got the LFLG, which stands for lateral flag, and it indicates the status of the lateral navigation signal. As you can see, currently it's set to out of view. And out of view in this case means that the warning flag is not displayed. It indicates that the lateral navigation signal, such as the GPS or the VOR, is valid and being received properly. We will skip VCDI and make a quick jump to VFLG, because that one also has the same, let's say, value. And that also means in this case that the vertical navigation signal, for example, the glide slope or the GPS vertical guidance, is valid and functioning properly, right? So VFLG stands for vertical flag, and it means it indicates the status of the vertical navigation system. So L from lateral, V from vertical. Then as last one, we've got the VCDI, which is the vertical course deviation indicator, and it indicates the aircraft's vertical position relative to the desired glide path or altitude. As you can see, the current value is half up. And half up, what does it mean? Well, half up means the following. This means that the needle is positioned halfway up to the scale. This indicates that the aircraft is slightly below the desired vertical glide path or altitude. What do you need to do there to fix this? Well, then you need to climb the aircraft or adjust its vertical path slightly to align with the target glide path. Then we're continuing with the options below, the to from. This indicates if you're flying towards something or you're flying away from something. In this case, it's set to, which means that we're flying to a specific beacon or waypoint which we configured. If it shows from, then we're flying away from it. Then we've got the RMI, which stands for radiomagnetic indicator. And it's a navigation instrument that combines a compass card with pointers to indicate the direction to a navigation system, for example a VR NDB, and helps you as the pilot to figure out your position relative to that station. Then we've got the OBS, which stands for Omni Bearing Selector, and this allows the pilot to manually select the desired course to or from the navigation system. For example, it's used to set the course on the CDI, the course deviation indicator, which we will cover a little bit later, as well, or the HSI, which stands for the horizontal situation indicator, and is particularly useful for intercepting and tracking specific radials. Down below that, we've got the ANNUN option, which stands for annunciator, and it refers to the indicator, lights, or displays that provide important alerts or status information to the pilot. For example, these annunciators might indicate navigation mode changes, warnings, or system statuses. For example, hey, you're deviating too much, then we'll give you an alert. Then we've got the DTK, which stands for desired track, and this represents the intended course or path that the aircraft should follow to reach a waypoint or destination, right? So it helps you as the pilot to stay on the correct route during the navigation. Then moving to the right top, where you can see CAP, FOB and FF. CAP means in this case capture, and it typically refers to the autopilot or navigation system capturing a selected course or glide path, right? It indicates that the system has locked onto the desired navigation signal or path. Currently it has been set to nothing. Then we've got the fuel on board, which is the FOB, and this represents the amount of fuel currently available on the aircraft. And it's really important to make sure that you're, I would say, planning this correctly before as part of your flight planning and set it correctly. And then as last point, we've got the FF, which stands for fuel flow, and it indicates the rate of which fuel is being consumed by the aircraft's engine. So it's measured in gallons per hour, GPH, or liters per hour, LPH, and it differs per aircraft, and some aircrafts might have a sensor which will show you the actual value. If you don't have it, then you will need to look up the fuel flow described in the manual of the aircraft. For example, for a Cessna 185, the GPH is around 14 during cruise, and it can take up to 18 GPH depending on the power settings and conditions, right? There are a lot of things which you need to keep in mind. It's also important to, of course, monitor the fuel flow. So now we know all these abbreviations and what they mean, right? What could we do next? Well, as you can see, currently the cursor is blinking on for OK, and you can change this by using the large knob to move it either to go to checklist or set full view. The set full view, as you would already expect, which sets the fuel to completely full, and if you go to the checklist, it will bring you to the checklist. However, based on some testing, right, you can see that I can change these ones, but what I figured out is if you would follow the exact manual from the GNS 430, you now should be able to press the enter button, which should do something. However, in this implementation of Flight Simulator 2020 and 2024, it might not work. So based on this, I figured out that the only option is to go to OK and then press the OK button. So no checklist, no full mode, or no set full view mode for you here. So once you've done that, right, you will come to this page, and this will show you the satellite status. So the satellite status, currently it's set to searching, which means it's searching for, let's say, some satellites, which I would say in this case it's can be pretty challenging, right? So what you would normally see is that there will be more satellites being added, and as you can currently see, there are 3 satellites, 1, 3, and 14. So it starts to pick up the things. So it now also changed the status to acquiring, which is what you want to have, because if it says acquiring, then we'll try to figure out, okay, which satellites can I use? And acquiring simply means, okay, hey, I found multiple satellites. Let me make sure that I can also receive data from them. So as you can see, multiple of them are now turning to green, right? And that's also the bar graph readings, which are a good indication of the unit receiving signals, and a position fix, which is being able to help you figure out where you are. Eventually, it will move to something else, right? It will move to this page, which you can't control, unfortunately. Based on this, I would say you can do 2 things. You can either accept it, or you can say, hey, I don't like this. Because normally what would happen is that this one would simply show you the messages, right? And the messages are over here. You can press them and an indication will be shown in the message box. However, again, in Flight Simulator 2020 and 2024, you won't see this. It will automatically move from the searching the sky and acquiring. It will automatically move over to this page. But what if you want to check the satellite options? There is still a way to do that. Let me zoom in a little bit further, right, so you can see it better. So what you can do is you can use this small knob, and this small knob would mean a few things. As you can see, currently the indicators here, which means that in this case we're in the navigation part of the GNS 430, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 subpages. And by moving them, you will see that you will get different views, right? Here we can see the map view, here we can see the terrain view, here we can see the traffic view. But if we move to the 5th position, we are able to see the satellite view. And the satellite view contains again the satellites which it has been detecting, which is pretty cool. But what can we do next, right? Because, hey, we might want to change, for example, the radio frequencies. Well, that's something you can do also, but that's on the right or left side. Sorry, not right side, left side. Always telling them incorrectly. But the left side will contain the COM part, which is the communication part, and the VLOC part, which is the, I would say, navigation part, right? We will discuss the VLOC part a little bit later on. But how can you change this? Well, you can see the small and large knob also on this side, and the large knob contains or allows you to change the large number, right? It changes the 1 to 5 to 1 to 6, etc., right? You can change it easily, and as you can expect, the small knob can be changed to change the digit after the comma. So, right, I'm going to change it back to default value, so which was 850 and 1 to 4, and that's how you can do that. The same thing, right, can be done for the VLOC. The VLOC, you need to press this one and then right click it. It will move to the VLOC where you can change the standby frequency. So you currently don't change anything, only the standby frequency, so nothing to worry about. So again, for this one, the large knob to change the number before the dot or before the comma, and the small one to change the number after the comma. Now, if you want to change these things, you can press the buttons over here, right? You can change the COM swap to make the standby frequency the primary one, and for the VLOC, the same thing, right? So you see, you can easily change them over. Say, not that hard. So, summary, the large left knob is set to set the megahertz or megahertz, and the small knob is to change the kilohertz, which are behind the comma. So, not that hard, right? But very useful to understand. As already explained, you can move to different sections where nav is the, let's say, one of the sections which contains 6 pages, but you can also change to different pages. And that can be done using the large knob over here, right? So you can change the large knob to WPT, right, which is waypoint, and this one contains far more pages as you can expect, right? For example, the waypoint, but if I would move it, it will moves me to this one, which shows me the runway, it shows me some more information. If I move it further, it will show me all the radio frequencies which I can use. It will change. If I move it to here, it will show me the approaches which I want to use, the arrivals, the departures, and also a lot of other things which we will discuss in a future video, how to change them and how to use them in your benefit. The next one is the AUX option, which allows you to do the flight planning part, right? You can do fuel planning, trip planning, but also the density, altitude, DAS, and winds can be configured over here by moving over these buttons, as you can see. Then we've got the utility button, which contains all these things. Unfortunately, in Flight Simulator 2020 and 2024, these buttons have been grayed out, so it looks like these options are not available, but they might be added in the near future. Then, of course, we've got the setup one, which allows you to configure the units and the MAC variation, the position, map datum, and the date and time. And then the next one is to change the displays, the nearest airport criteria, the SBAS selection, and the COM configuration. Again, these ones are discussed in a future video. But hey, maybe you're getting lost, right? Maybe you're getting lost and you want to return to the original navigation page. Well, there's a trick for that. If you see this button, you might think, hey, if I'm pressing clear, I'm clearing the complete configuration. In this case, don't worry. What you can do is pressing the clear button, and if you press it long enough, it will bring you back to the navigation page, or navigation section, I should say, and then to the first page, which allows you to, say, again, scroll to these ones, or these pages, using the small knob. So small knob to move between pages, large knob to move between sections. But enough talked about all these settings and all these meanings, right? So what are other things which we can do? Because there are a lot of other options which we didn't discuss. So if we would follow the manual, it will show us how to do the direct to navigation. So also let me show that. So the direct to navigation is this one, right? If you hover over it, you will see direct to. If you press the button, it will allow you to put a value in. And the value in this case, starts with the echo and the hotel. And you can use your position changes by using the large knob, which moves the position, and then the small knob to change these, let's say, letters, right, in this case. So we can change it to echo hotel, for example. And then I can move one position further and then change the letters, right? And if you move it over, you will see that it also contains a description. So in this case, Helico Heidhuizen, the Johan Willem Frieso Barracks, the C for the glider, Field Kesselkum, the Grand House Te Duin, and several other ones, right? So find the one which you want to use, want to travel to, and then select the one which you want to use. In this case, I'm searching for a different one, right? You can see that there are a lot of things over here, including also outside of the Netherlands, but also including positions which are, let's say, airports, sorry, I should say, or heliports, right? So in this case, I can set it to Echo Hotel Rotterdam. Rotterdam. No, that's where we're going to. Echo Hotel Romeo Delta. And then it will show me a few things. First of all, it will show me the exact location, but also the course which you need to fly to, or say to fly to the specific one, right? You can either, let's say, set it to an airport, but you could also decide to set it, for example, to a VOR or an NDB or an intersection. It's really up to you, because it will simply allow you to select anything which is stored in a navigation database, which is part of, let's say, this nice system. So once you're happy with it, you can of course press the enter button. That will move the one over to deactivate. So if you don't do anything right now, you don't need to worry, right? Because nothing happens. So if I would press enter now, it will simply add this as my destination, and then it will bring me back to the default navigation page If you don't want to do it, simply press that clear button for a longer time. It will bring you back to the original nav page. Now we did define our direct to, you will see a few things have changed, right? For example, you can see, okay, some numbers are changed on this part, and also indicates some arrows. And depending on the, I would say, direct to which you configured or the flight plan you have configured, it will show different things here, which we'll discuss in a future video. But the bottom part, let's discuss it now because I do think that it makes most sense. So the XTK stands for cross track error. It indicates the distance to the aircraft which has deviated from the desired flight path, right? So this is, to say, the deviation, I would say. Then this refers to the distance remaining to an airport or to a waypoint. In this case, 106 nautical miles to the Rotterdam The Hague airport. And then we've got the TRK, which stands for the track and represents the actual path the aircraft is following over the ground. So 180 degrees is the actual path of the aircraft. Then of course we've got the ground speed, which is set to 0 because we're standing still, right? Nothing happens, but it will change. And then we've got the ETA, which is the estimated time en route, and it's the projected time required to reach the next waypoint or destination. So if you've got multiple waypoints, it will change continuously depending on the waypoint where you're flying to. Then the DTK, we already discussed it, but recapping it again, desired track. It's the intended course or path the aircraft should follow to reach this waypoint. So in this case, 226 degrees, that will bring us to Rotterdam The Hague airport. But can you change these fields? Yes, that's possible. To change the default nav page fields, you need to go to the menu, and then you will get the option to say change fields. If I would use the knob on the right side and can, I would say, first press, of course, change fields, and then I can move to the field which I want to change, because maybe the distance is not the thing which I want to see, but I want to see something different. So let's assume that in this case, the XTK, I want to change it, right? So I'm using the large knob to change it, and then I can use the small knob. If I move it, it will show me a lot of options. So I can show the bearing, the distance, the desired track, the estimated time arrival, estimated time en route, the ground speed, the track angle range option, error, and then the track, as well as the vertical speed required. So if I want to, for example, see the vertical speed required, I can select this option and then, well, I can use it, right? Let's try that. And you can see it directly changes. Now, if you made a lot of changes and you want to revert to the default, you can press the menu button again, move the large knob to restore default, and then press enter, and then likely it will restore the defaults. But unfortunately, it didn't do it, right? So that's something which you need to keep in mind, that if you changed it, that you might to keep in mind which one you had originally configured, because likely you won't be able to change it back to default. Let me try it again. All right, let me press the enter button and then say, okay, hey, change it to distance, for example. Then move over, press the menu button again, say restore defaults. It likely doesn't work, right? So I'm not sure why it doesn't work. So let me press the clear button again and then try it again. Distance, restore defaults, and enter. No. So that's something which you need to keep in mind, right? So likely it won't, I would say, change back to the normal or previous settings which you changed. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say change fields. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to press, I'm going to use a small knob and then change it to that XTK value, which it was originally, right? That's the one which we need. And then it will change back to the default. If you want to get rid of this distance button, right, or the blinking cursor, you can press the clear button, which will, I'd say, move out of that edit mode, which is pretty nice. So let's take a few steps further, right? Keep in mind that, I would say, if you look at the manual from the GNS 430, it's not 100% mimicking the, I would say, version of the GNS 430, which is implemented in Flight Simulator 2020 and 2024. So I'm going to show you some things which are different compared to the manual, right? So In this case, if you want to show the frequencies of the departure or maybe the arrival, what you can do is you need to move to a different section. So you move the large knob, in this case to the WBT, and then you can use the small knob, which allows you to move to the different pages, including the radio frequencies. Now, let's assume that you want to change this one, right? The airport is currently set to Echo Hotel Golf Golf, which is Ilde Airport. But if I want to have different frequencies, for example, from the destination airport, how can I show them? Well, if you press the left button and then right click, you will see that this part starts to blink. And if it starts to blink, it means that you can change something. Now, using the large knob, or small knob, sorry, you can move this one over, right? It just works the same as we added the direct to. So you can go to the Echo Hotel Romeo Delta, right? And well, Echo Hotel set. And then you can also go the other way around, right? Sometimes it's easier. Romeo. Oh, Romeo, and then go use the large knob again. Delta. You can see that it sometimes is acting weird. The thing is that it's irritating. If you move to the previous position, it will remove that last entry, right? So let's say this requires some practice in some cases. I'm not sure why it's changing it all the way. Likely it has to do with the letter I'm changing currently, but let me, oh no, it doesn't have to do with that. I need to pay attention. It also changed the first one. So it could also be a bug, of course, because it remains Flight Simulator 2024, right? Echo Hotel, and then let me change it. Well, I need to change it in this case to H. Why does it do it? Maybe it's a bug, right? So normally what you would be able to do, and I say normally, is you would be able to change the beacon over here, right? Let me move it one position and then try again. This is really irritating, right? And now you can imagine that some people are really frustrated about Flight Simulator 24. Echo Hotel. Romeo. Yeah, this becomes a nightmare. Well, I hope you do understand what I mean, right? Because I don't think that you can change with the keyboard yet. That would be a really nice addition, by the way. But based on this, you can provide your next beacon or your next airport, and based on that, you would be able to see the frequencies which are available, right? So in this case, I would display the frequencies for Rotterdam, The Hague Airport. Now, besides that, there are some other things, right? So there are some other buttons which we didn't discuss. So we discussed mainly these buttons, but we didn't, for example, look at the range button, right? So let me change this and then press the range button. And if you look at it, you can see that you can change the range, right? You need to click it and then use the mouse cursor to scroll in or scroll out, and then you can change the range. And then you will also see in this left part which range it is. So in this case, 10 nautical miles, but you can see that I can change to up to, let's say a lot, right? You can change it to, in this case, well, a lot, 200 nautical miles, that's the max. And the minimum is, I think, 1 nautical mile, right? So that's where you also almost, you can even go lower. And that's where you can even see the airport, right? Which helps you navigating the airport if you want, which is really cool. So that's next, right? So, or what's next, I should say. Well, for example, if you're departing from this airport, you might want to use, for example, a standard instrumental departure. So you can do that by pressing that PROC button. And the PROC button, it will normally take the airport, which you already configured here. But hey, since we screwed it up, right, that's, let's say, hard to show you. So let me first fix this and then, let's say, continue. And while explaining that, I found another fix, right? So the fix is really simple, right? Even if you're seeing that error, let's say ignore it. So press the PROC button, and then it now shows the vertical approach. So what I did, let me show it quickly to you. So to fix it, I pressed the enter button, and the enter button simply would say, kind of wipe down the value which we initially had over here. Right, so I pressed the enter button and completely forgot this value and took the destination airport. Once we're there, right, let's do it like this. I press the procedure button, and if you select the correct airport, it will show this window, which allows you to select the approach. It selects the arrival or the departure. So this is really easy because now you can configure the standard terminal approach route, the star, or you also can select the departure in case you want to select the departure for the airport, right? So if I'm using the large knob to move the positions, and then I can use the small knob for nothing because it doesn't work. And then I can simply say, hey, I want to change it, right? I want to set, for example, I want to set the approach. I press the enter button. Then it shows me all the approaches which are available. So in this case, for DME 06, but also ILS 06, ILS Y24. And again, I can use this large knob to change the position which I want to use, and then press the enter button over here. It allows me to send the let's say the transition, right? Do I want to use vectors, or do I want to use DOFMU or masters to let's say connect to my flight plan? And then I press enter, and then I can say activate, and then it will say, hey, GPS guidance is for monitoring only, activate approach. No, I don't want to activate the approach yet because I'm currently at the airport itself, right? So it shows you directly a warning if you want to activate it, and you shouldn't do it. So be aware that if you're not there yet, don't activate this because it will cause some issues. To go back one page, you press the clear button because in this case, I want to set the departure, right? Similar approach. In this case, what you will see is the departures for this airport, and that's why it's important to make sure that you're reflecting the airport in the waypoint first with the airport which you want to change, because in this case, it selects the departures for Rotterdam The Hague Airport. But hey, I'm currently at Groningen Airport or Eelde Airport, right? So it doesn't make any sense. So again, fix this first. Once you fix that, then you can do your thing. And if you press the clear button, you will go pages back. And if you don't want to see this page again, you can simply select it or deselect it, which will bring you back to this. Remember how we can get back to the original page? Yes, pressing the clear button. If you press it long enough, then it will bring you back to this page. So no worries if you're stuck, you can still use that clear button. Now there are a few other things which we can discuss in this video, and that's, would say, for example, finding the nearest page, right? So the nearest page, which is really interesting, or the nearest waypoint, right? You can see I can change it easily using the large knob to nearest, which will show me the nearest intersection. But if I move the small knob, I can also move to the nearest NDB, the VOR, or if I'm moving it to the start, to the nearest airport. This makes it possible to change relatively easy to which, I would say, airport or VOR I want to fly next, right? So let's assume that we want to change the nearest VOR, right? Let's assume that we want to use, for example, this one. I can press and activate it, then it will select it. Then I can use the large knob, again, large knob, to change the position, right? I can change frequency, as you can see, but also move it to this one and then press enter, which will then show me the actual information about, okay, the frequency, but also the type. And then I can say done. I can say, okay, hey, I'm done, right? And this will simply show me some information about this specific, let's say, beacon, in this case, the VOR beacon, right? Similar process there for, let's say, the airports. But now let's assume that I want to use this in the direct to. I can still do that, right? I can press the direct to, and you can see that it takes over that value. And then now if I would press enter and enter again, it will change my flight plan. And that's where I also can show you the flight plan, because I press the FPL button. It would normally update it here, but for some reason in my case it didn't do it. But normally it would set your flight plan, but I think it only works correctly if you would do it for the airport. So let me try that. So going over this one, pressing clear, and then using the, so first right click on it to deselect it, then go to the nearest airport. In this case, left click, right click to change the different airport. So let's assume that we want to go to a different airport. This one, for example, press enter, Drachten, fine for me, and then say direct to, shows me this information. Then I can press enter and then enter again. And then hopefully it has changed the direct to. Let me check. No, it also hasn't changed the direct to. Why not? Well, because I didn't do it correctly, likely, but you can figure out, or you can think of a scenario where you first look up this, and then I would say use the enter button, and then you, based on this, you will calculate, okay, hey, do I, for example, have enough view, or are there some other things which I need to keep in mind? All of this shows the, I would say, if you can review at the airport, and then I can press enter, and then I'm done. Now, there might be situations where you're in, I would say, a very nasty situation. And if that's the case, there's always the nearest section. And the nearest section can be, again, accessed by that large knob. And that large knob allows you to show either the nearest airports. But if you would not select it, like I did, but use the small knob, you would be able to move to different intersections, NDBs, and VORs. As you probably already saw, I selected this airport, and how to select this is by pressing the small knob on the right side and then right click it, which will show you this information. And if you selected this one, it will also show you some additional information, right? And you can use these, I would say, sections to move over to different parts. So for example, if I want to move to a different, say, airport, for example, I can press enter. It will show me the information, in this case military geneeskunde, and then if I press done, it will clear this information. But it also shows me some valuable information such as the elevation of the airport, the position of the airport, if I can review the radar information, the airspace, if it's in a specific airspace, but also the approach, in this case VFR. Once you're done, you can simply press the enter button that will bring you back to this page. But let's assume that I want to use this as a destination. In this case, you press direct. Then you will see that it will automatically populate this and will allow you to simply, I would say, use this one by pressing enter and enter again to update that location. And this will update your, I would say, direct to, or it should update your direct to automatically. Again, this is should because I saw some weird things happening in Flight Simulator 2024 at least, where it did not work as expected. But hey, that's what it is, right? We know it's a product which is currently in development, although it's already released to GA, and we know that the team is hard working on resolving these kind of issues. So let's see if it has changed something. And as you can see, currently it still has the original airport as well as the original arrival route in here, which it's in this case doesn't really help, right? So it has the flight plan, but hey, what if I want to create a new flight plan? Or want to get rid of this one, I should say, right? So if I go to the flight plan page, which can easily be accessed by pressing that FPL button, I can press the menu button. And the menu button has a lot of interesting options. First of all, what you could do, if I'm not happy with the arrival, I can remove it. Or I can select the departure, or I can select a different arrival or approach. But what I also can do is invert the flight plan, which means that in this case I've got Ilde as the departure airport, while I've got Rotterdam as the destination. But if I press this option, it will simply completely switch it around. But what if I really want to start from scratch? Well, that's where we've got the delete flight plan option for. So if I press this option, you see it warns me, are you really 100% sure that you want to delete it? Yes. And now it has deleted this. Keep in mind, it only deletes the flight plan. It doesn't delete the direct to option, which is really important to understand. Again, something to keep in mind if you want to use this. The other thing which is really useful, if you would ask me, is if I press the menu button again, and if I would scroll down a little bit further, because this one indicates that there should be more menus. But unfortunately, there are no more options, because one of the other things which I saw in the manual is that there should be an option to create a new flight plan, but likely they removed it. I'm not 100% sure what's the reason behind it in Flight Simulator 2020, because as you can see, I can't go further down, although the menu bar shows that I should go, or that I would have the ability to go further down. So is it 100% the same as the GNS 430 in real life? I would say not yet, but that will likely change somewhere. And with this, we're at the end of this video where we went to, say, kind of the basic steps, right? Keep in mind that I didn't went into too much detail for some of the sections, but keep an eye on my channel because I will show you more of these sections in future videos, because this is the first video as part of the GNS 430 video, let's say, series. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then press the like button, because that also makes me aware that I'm on the good spot. If you don't like it, also feel free to press the don't like button, because then I know that I need to change something. But here I'm challenging you, because if you press the don't like button, then at least tell me what I should do differently, what you would like to see more, or what you don't like. If you press the like button, also of course feel free to ask any questions or to provide some feedback on what you want me to include in future videos around this topic about the GNS 430. Again, here ends the video. I hope you liked it, and I hope to see you back in the next video about the GNS 430.